Alright everybody, today I'm gonna show you guys how you can make some emotional beats for somebody like Lil Tjay. As most of you guys know, Lil Tjay is actually one of my favorite artists, so this one is definitely gonna be a banger. Now with that being said, make sure you guys watch the whole video so you don't miss out on any tricks. I'm gonna break down everything from the melody to the drums in a step-by-step process, all from scratch. So let's not waste any more time, let's just jump right in. Alright, so we're now here in FL Studio 21 as you guys can see, and the first thing I want to do for this one is actually switch to BPM. Now when it comes to these Lil Tjay type of beats, sometimes they're actually very high in BPM and sometimes they're very low. In this case, I feel like actually going for something below 100, so I think something in between 90 and 95. So let's just pick 95 in this case, and then we can head over to our first instrument. So usually you hear a lot of piano coming from Lil Tjay, so that's exactly what we're going to be using in this one. So in this case, we're actually going to be using a completely free plugin, which is actually Labs from Spitfire Audio, and we're just going to be using this tape piano right here. It has a super smooth sound, as you guys can hear, and like I said, it's literally a free piano, so you can't really go wrong with this one. Now from here we are working in the F sharp minor scale, so let's just pick this one, and I'm going to teach you guys how you can really get that emotional vibe out of your piano. So I want to do this in a little bit of a different way, so you guys don't really have that typical type of chord progression as always. So it's going to be a bit different. Let's just start off by putting down a note on the F sharp 4 right here. Since we are working in the F sharp minor scale, we're just going to be starting by laying this down as our root note and then skipping this one right here and putting a note on the A4. Now what you guys would probably think right now is that we're just going to make it a normal trad chord like this, but what we're actually going to do is switch it up a little bit. So instead of having this normal trad, we're just going to pitch this one up by one semitone, so it hits on the D5 instead. Now from here we want some more notes in the higher frequencies, so what we're going to do is just keep one of these notes consistent, and it's going to be this middle note right here. So copy the A4 and pitch it up by one octave, so we have it on the A5 as well, and then you can kind of play around with one more note if you want to. In this case, I think I'm going to play around with this B4, but you don't have to add this one, but it's going to add a little bit of character. So I'm just going to add this as well and make sure to highlight everything and hitting Alt and S, so we get that strumming sensation as well as having a super realistic sound. Now this is super key, because if you don't strum the notes, they're not really going to sound that good. So this right here is going to be our first chord. As you guys can hear, we are already getting that emotional and deep sound. But of course, we want to build off of this. So let's keep this second chord a little bit more simple. Gonna copy this F down here, and I want to keep this A consistent. And from here, it's not really that hard. Let's just copy this over from here and pitch it down by one semitone. Now you guys might think that this will create a little bit more tension than usual since we're using the half steps, but trust me, we just want to build that tension and kind of release it towards the end right here. It's really going to give us that deep sound. But I am going to slice this up right here just to create some more movement so it's not so still, and we can just copy this F over again, but I'm gonna pitch this up by one octave so we have more notes that are higher up, like this A right here as well. Now what I'm gonna do from here is actually just copy this same exact chord over, but this time I'm gonna delete that middle note that we were using earlier. So you can delete either the B or the A. I think I'm gonna delete the A in this case because it sounds a bit better. And for the last chord, we're kind of gonna do a little bit of a mix in between these two chords. So what I'm gonna do is just copy this over here. This time, since we deleted the A, I'm gonna delete the B this time. And then this one, since I wanna, like I said, I wanna mix between these two, let's just pitch this down by one semitone, and then we can add one more note which we haven't used, which is going to be this E right here. That's pretty much going to be our chord progression. The last thing I want to do is just copy these root notes down here and pitch them down by one octave so we can have a bit of a deeper sound down here as well. But for these ones, super important, just make sure to lower the velocity down a bit. We don't want that to be too present. It's just going to be a little bit of a deeper sound on the lower end of the frequency range. So this is how the piano sounds. Right, so that is pretty much going to be it for the piano. Obviously from here we need to add some effects to that to really enhance the whole sound. So the first thing we're going to do is open up RC20. Now we are going for a sad piano beat, so what better preset to use than the one that is called sad piano right here. So we're just going to be using that preset, but we are deleting the noise since we don't want too much of that going on. So you can hear it kind of gives us that sad type of vibe, and it's really because it cuts out the frequencies that are giving too much light to the piano. Next thing we're doing now is just adding a bit of reverb. So roam at about 17%. And I'm also going to lower the volume a bit on the piano. Next, we're going to open up an imager to widen out the sound a bit. Just gives it more space. And lastly, we need a EQ to clean it up a bit. So just clean up these frequencies right here and the boxy mids as well. This is pretty much essential when it comes to pianos. So just take a listen to the difference. Right, the next thing we're going to do now to complement that piano is add some sort of vocal. As you guys know, in those Lil Tjay beats, there are always some sort of vocal in the background. So that's exactly what we're going to do for this one. So to find the vocal, I'm just going to go into Splice, look through a couple of the vocal samples and see which one is going to fit nicely with the piano. Right, so the vocal I found in Splice is this one right here. So I've just pitched it and time stretched it. As you guys can see, it's a longer vocal as well. Now what we need to do to this is really add those effects that's going to blend it nicely with the piano. So I have actually already added those effects, and it is a RC20. In this one I'm using a magnitude transition 1 preset as well as a roam reverb, about 27% just to add that ambience. And lastly, it's really just the EQ to cut out a lot of the high frequencies. This is really going to help blend it all together with the piano, and you can hear the difference. Without anything, it sounds like this. But with the effects on, it's actually sounding like this instead. That's really what gives you that Lil Tjay type of vibe. Now one more thing to note, I did actually pitch down the whole sample by 2 semitones. So both the piano and the vocal so far are actually not in F sharp, they're in E minor instead. So we might adjust this a little bit later on, but I just felt like it sounded better with the vocal as well. Right, so the next thing we want to do now is find some sort of pad that we can layer the whole sample with. So this is really going to bring out that whole ambience and atmosphere to the whole piano sample, so we can really make sure that we fill out everything. As you guys know, these Lil Tjay beats aren't really that complicated. They're pretty much just a super simple piano chord progression with some sort of vocal in the background. Not really too many counter melodies or stuff going on. It's just a lot of ambience, and then what really makes the whole sound go through is really the vocals that are put on. So I'm just going to open up Omnisphere, go into the pads and string section, look through a couple of different pads and see which one fits nicely. Right, so I did find this preset right here, this lush ambient string right there, and what I've pretty much done is just copy pasted the piano melody over to the lush strings, and then we're just gonna pitch this up by like 3 octaves or something, see how it sounds. Yeah, so it gives us that ambience in the background, as you guys can hear. You can just add a lot of reverb and make it really blend together with the whole thing. Right now I think it's time that we add that bounce. As for the drum sounds I'm using, they're all coming from the Motion Bundle kit. So if you guys like any of the drum sounds you hear in this video and you want some more kits all in one bundle, make sure to check out the kit. It is on my website, which is BBMarko.com, or you guys can just click the first link down below. I literally have a open hat called TJ right here, so I think it's only right that we're going to be using this one. Let's drag it in. And let's just add that open hat on the first hit right there, so it really adds to that punch on the first hit. Then from here we also want to just add a standard clap pattern. These are the hi-hats right here. I just dragged in number 95 from my hi-hat MIDI section in the Motion Bundle kit as well, just to get that cool little bounce. As you guys might see the trend, these beats are super simple, so make sure you guys don't overcomplicate it. You really want the artist to flow over this whole thing with the vocals. So the last thing we need to add to the drums is basically just the 808 and a kick. And as you guys know, these 808s are super punchy. So with the 808, just combining that with a punchy kick as well. Keeping stuff simple, that's pretty much it right there. Alright, so here we have the full beat.
Marko?
You have a pretty long intro because we want that vocal. Kind of the atmosphere comes in. Then we want to remove the vocals for the first part of the hook right there. It's typical TJ stuff. Yeah, the drums come in. Then we have the busy part. Couple chops. Come into the verse. Vocal as well. Yeah, super cool drop right there. Fades out. Kind of just transitions into the hook again.
Shut up, Marko. Marko?